And right now, like after COVID, a lot of offices are getting these revalidation letters and they're like, what's going on? Medicare's kicking me out. Why?
All right, welcome to Genesis Nation again. And I'm excited to have with us two extremely intelligent humans here and way smarter than me because these women here really master and control the back end of credentialing. And I know docs out there that credentialing is not always the most exciting thing, but it's extremely important to capture every single detail, cross every T, dot every I. I know myself, that is not my strong suit. So I'm really glad that we have created a trifecta of collaboration between Target Coding, we have Natasha, and we have with Rapid Credentialing, we have Brandy. So, and with Genesis, we have all teamed together to provide you, the doctors in your offices, with a streamline of capability of getting yourself credentialed and the doctors there. So, Brandy, we're going to start with you, if that's okay. Can you just tell us a little bit about credentialing and the things that you've seen, because you've been doing this for some time, obviously, and you shared with me earlier how poor communication is between someone doing the credentialing and the doctor. But can you talk to me a little bit about credentialing and then your communication style to offices?
You bet. And so when we're expecting to submit our claims for coverage from third-party payers, we have to be enrolled appropriately with those payers so they recognize us as a provider. So credentialing is really not just an enrollment process with a payer, but it's also the payer's way of screening the provider to make sure that that's a suitable provider and everything appears in order so that they can be considered for coverage. Credentialing is such a detail-oriented task, and it can be really, really time-consuming. If we don't get it correct and we find ourselves not getting paid by our payers, and ultimately the downstream effect is always our patients, right? Because they're getting copies of EOBs or getting letters saying the provider isn't enrolled, and it's upsetting to the patients.
Of course.
And of course, the clinics aren't getting paid. So a lot of the clinics that we work with for credentialing have either tried to do credentialing on their own and ran into a wall, or something got a little bit sideways, perhaps have hired a credentialing service and never heard from them again, and they don't know the status of everything. Because of that, communications, and of course, all of the detail-oriented aspects of credentialing, but communications is really, really important to us. And so once we submit all of the applications for a provider, we send to the provider by email a notification of the status of all of those submissions. We also follow up twice per month on every single application that's submitted for if there's additional information, if there's something being held up for some reason, if it's in process, if we have an expected approval date, all of the information that you can get. And we communicate that in bi-monthly updates to the provider, so they always have their fingers on the pulse of where their credentialing is in process. With that being said, the ongoing communication that we send is always, of course, in writing, but the providers are always, or their office managers or administrators are always invited to reach out to us with other questions and things along those lines, so that, we're all on the same team working toward the same goal, which is to get them starting to get paid more quickly.
Because a lot of times when I dealt with it myself, it was like set it and forget it, but then I kept forgetting, and I'm like, all right, not paying attention, and then having to farm it out. So I'm glad that really excited that we've created this relationship, and I'm even more excited at how good you are at details. So Natasha, can you talk about what we were speaking to earlier with around the whole area of credentialing?
Yeah, I think one of the primary reasons that we've joined forces is because Brandy and I have worked in the trenches in a chiropractic office from, our teenage years. And we know like what it feels like to go through these processes and be dealing with companies that aren't complying or putting you in the loop of what's going on. And, we heard from Genesis what they were looking for. And so what we did, since Target Coding's primary aspect is to help offices with proper compliance, is we joined up with Brandy because she has a great team as well that knows how to do credentialing correctly. And both of us are passionate about communication and customer service. I think Brandy and I since we've been in the trenches, we know what we expect and what we want, and we want to provide that to each provider. So we've definitely worked in collaboration to streamline things so that communication is constant with every office, which we think we're going to say the word communication over and over, because Brandy and I think that that is the primary way
critical.
to,
Yeah.
it's the only way. And we found that that's normally where the hiccups start. And so if we can minimize that and mitigate that from the very beginning by keeping providers into the loop from the time they start with us, and that starts from the time that they have an inquiry call with us. Brandy and I will always follow up with a detailed email afterwards, explaining everything that the call was about, and for them so they can review and decide, is this right for them? And if they do decide to move forward, then we give another detailed explanation with a quote of exactly of the work that's going to be provided. So there's no question as to what we're going to be doing and not doing and what's being filled out and not filled out. They get a very detailed explanation, and then they sign off on the work. So we make sure that from the very beginning, before we even get started, that we know exactly what we're going to be doing for you. And the great thing is that each office, when they start with us, is they get someone that's going to be managing their account, and that's going to be their point of contact. So there's also less issues with confusion or miscommunication, because you'll always be dealing with the same person on a regular basis with your applications. And I think that makes things even easier, because if you have questions, you know exactly who to ask and where to go. So I think that's the primary thing that we strive to do when it comes to credentialing, and obviously taking that aspect that you were mentioning of forgetting. Like, it's very easy for us to, who goes into Pecos like on a regular basis? It doesn't happen really. And if you needed to update something in Medicare, you probably forgot what that password was, because it changes every 60 days, right? And I doubt you went in there 60 days ago to update it or know what is going on. And you know, the great thing is Brandy's team, they have a system where they can monitor, if you want them to, your continual process and what else needs to be done. And right now, like after COVID, a lot of offices are getting these revalidation letters, and they're like, what's going on? Medicare's kicking me out. Why? Like, I don't know what's happening. And that's because there's nobody monitoring to see, you know, did I get a request? It might be going to an email from an old employee. You know, you don't know. So the great thing is that we keep that streamlined from beginning to that continual, you know, making sure that we continually check on what's going on, and that you're attesting when you should be attesting, and that you're not going to have any voids in your billing because you forgot or got kicked out of a network that you worked really hard to get into. I mean, we just worked with a doctor who really wanted to stay into a network, and they kicked him out because he didn't respond.
And then once you're out, it's like you're climbing an uphill battle with like oil slicks. So I'm really, really just appreciative of like how you guys are so into this, and I'm definitely not. And I so appreciate like being connected with team members who are like really passionate about getting this work done. And what's even cooler is that you all have been in the trenches in a chiropractic office, so you understand where, you know, our focus is the patients, and I know your focus is the patients, and then you have this skill set to just circle it around and make sure that we dot all our I's and cross all our T's. So thank you for, you know, your tireless effort and your attention to the details. And we couldn't be more excited to be collaborating with your companies and your organizations. So those of you out there in Genesis Nation, if you need help with credentialing, we'll put the information below or to the side, whichever way it goes on social media, and you'll be able to contact us and we can help you out with credentialing. So thank you both for your time, and look forward to working together.
Likewise.
Thank you.